So we are welcome back again. This is the Psych 337 prep. We are now on observational learning. This is the Faculty of Intellectual Platform, in case you'll be watching this on YouTube. If you're here live, then let's get started. My name is Siddik Salis, and I'm to walk you through this peer-to-peer discussion. And we'll be using Dr. Lovely, Dr. Inusa's slides, okay? Some people were asking of the slides. In case you need a slide, you just have to DM me after the discussion, and then you have it. Okay, so since this is a prep, it's a revision kind of, we'll be doing it as usual, okay? So you wouldn't be, I'll get to a certain point, I'll be like, okay, so let's skip here and then let's move on, okay? Okay, so let's get started. So observational learning. At the end, what are we expecting to know? Okay, so this will be our objective. This will be our outline. So same as like the objective. So we'll be looking at the proponent of observational learning or social learning. That is Albert Bandura. Albert Bandura. Okay, then the process of observational learning, and we'll look at the factors that influence observational learning. So let's get started. Albert Bandura is not a new person to us. We've seen him, meaning the name. We've come across the name from level 100, first semester, second semester, and general psychology in level 200. So it's not a new name to us. He's the proponent of observational learning. But then, what do we mean by observational learning? It's just as the name suggests, learning through observation, meaning not learning through classical conditioning, meaning associating two stimulus, such as neutral stimulus with unconditioned stimulus to elicit a response. No. It's not also associating consequence with response, like operant conditioning. Okay? This is just by observing. It's also learning by association. But we associate, in this case, we associate the a model. We associate a model's behavior to our response, meaning a model's behavior is going to determine how we are going to respond to certain situations eventually. Okay, so that's what observation is all about. Okay, the one we normally observe is called the model. Okay, and that model's behavior is going to determine our behavior. Also, some of the factors that influence it is vicarious learning, as we've heard it over and over. That vicarious learning is the reward or punishment that was received by your model or by the model. Okay, what happened to the model will also influence or affect whether we are going to mimic or how do you call it, exhibit same behavior. Okay, so let's get in. So learning by association differs from classical and operant condition. I've stated that already, so let's get. That's the man, Albert Bandura. Albert Bandura. So before Bandura reached his decision, he conducted a series of classical experiments. Now remember, classic experiments, meaning classic. Yes, I think yesterday or so we talked about classical and classic, okay? Meaning like it has preceded already, right? So one of it is what we have here, the Bobo doll experiment or the Bobo doll studies. Here, I wouldn't be telling you what Bobo doll is. Come on. You are almost in level 400, about to be a graduate. And eventually, if you are to continue with your master's, in less than 3 years, you become a psychologist. And you want me to tell you what Bobo doll is. Okay, so let's move on. A bubble doll is if you don't know bubble dollar. So in one experiment, 24 preschool children assigned to each of three conditions. One group observed aggressive adult models. A second observed inhibited, non-aggressive models. The third, which is the control group, had no prior exposure to models. Now, let me explain this experiment to you in a nutshell. Okay, so in this studies, in the bubble doll studies, he categorized these children into three groups. And I believe we've learned experimental psychology, so wouldn't have problem with this kind of groups. The first two groups are what we call the experimental groups. And then we have the third group, which we will call the control group. Now, the first group, it is said that they were exposed to aggressive adult models. Okay, so they were like in a room where it's like, let's say, a movie where adults were actually punching like that. They were punching the bubble doll with aggressiveness. You understand? And the other group in the other room, they were exposed to non-aggressive models, meaning they weren't punching the dolls. Okay? So the adults that they were exposed to weren't punching the how do you call it? The doll, the bubble doll. The third group, which is the control group, as we know, control groups, for them, they will not be exposed to anything. Okay? The third, which is the control group, had no prior exposure to models. So for them, they were neutralized. Okay, so what do you think the outcome will be? So now someone will say that then definitely we know common sense will tell us that if what you teach the child or what you show to the child will mimic that. But then how do you establish this scientifically? Remember, this is psychology and this is science. Psychology is science. So how do you establish this how do you call it, scientifically? And that's what Bandura did. There are a lot of things we take them to be how do you call it? We take the default position as that's how it is. Okay, the default position is what is usually referred to as the HO in how do you call it? Statistics or psychostat. Okay, that's the HO. That's the default position. Oh, okay. For example, is the Earth flat or spherical? Initially, the position was that it was flat, and that is the default position. So people think, okay, so now let's say people think that men are stronger than women. Let's assume that no studies have been done. You need to take it upon yourself to conduct a study, and you take the H1 position. That's the researcher's position. Okay, to see if you can defeat that of the default position, the general mass position when it comes to physical strength, men and women. Who has more physical strength? Okay, so you conduct a study, a scientific one, and that's what Albert Bandura was doing. Okay, so what was the outcome? So they are trying to see what will be the outcome if they come out from their room. So these were the results. Okay, bubble doll studies results. So definitely, you don't need to be told. Those who were exposed to how do you call it, aggressive models reproduced a good deal of aggression. Like they were actually mimicking the models that they were exposed to. What of those Subjects in the aggressive condition also exhibited significantly more partially imitative, non-imitative aggressive behavior, and were generally less inhibited in their behavior. I think this one, the second one, is talking about the non-aggressive models. Okay, so for them, they exhibited less, they were less imitative. Okay, definitely, that's how it's going to be. So they didn't actually exhibited as the first ones. Okay, then they were compared to the control group, as you know, if you've done experimental psychology and are actually doing how do you call it, psychostat now, then you are familiar with these terms I'm using. Okay, so criticisms. He was criticized for lots of things, which normally sometimes it comes in objectives, or you have to state it when you are being asked in the essay question. So critics have argued that the experiment conducted was unethical and morally wrong because the children were trained to be aggressive. Now, why are they making this statement? They are trying to say that you are actually making the children aggressive. There's nothing that is going to take that aggressiveness from the children. It's going to be with them forever. So you're actually training them to be aggressive. Okay, so they said that is wrong. It is immoral. It's unethical. It's like, oh, saying Quran, you understand? It is also believed that the experiment might have had long-term implications on the children. I've said that already. Many critics have argued that the children were manipulated to respond to the aggressive movie. So the movie that was shown to them, some people said no, they were actually manipulated in a way just to behave that way. This is one of the criticisms, anyways. Moreover, the children were teased and became frustrated because they could not touch the toy. Some people also said that you put a toy there and you didn't let the children play with it. You understand? So there's also another criticism for that. Now, the toy that was placed down there, the bubble doll, my question that I asked was it that the children were not actually allowed to touch it at all, or later they were asked to go and play with it and they were like they were fighting it and all that? Whilst after watching the video, because of this criticism of theirs. Moreover, the children were teased and became frustrated because they could not touch the toys. However, I believe that this was the initial stage where they could not touch the toys, but later they were asked to go, they were released to the toys and they were observed on how they're going to behave towards the bubble doll. Finally, some critics suggest that the children were often playing rather than aggressing. So some people also said, no, the children weren't showing aggression. They were actually, they were just playing and not showing aggression, just like the models. So this was just like a counter to the first critics that are saying that the children are learning aggressiveness and all that. And also, it's also a criticism to Albert Bandura saying that you are recording aggressiveness, that the children are exhibiting aggressiveness, which in actual sense, they weren't exhibiting aggressiveness. They were actually playing. Process of observational learning. How do we learn through observation? Some of the things here, we are familiar with them, okay? So I'll just hit on them and then run, hit and run. Okay, so this is the process. First of all, we pay attention. Yesterday, I gave an example with paying attention. Okay, that sometimes you may think you are paying attention, but you're not paying attention. Okay? Attention, retention, motor reproduction, and the motivation. So let me explain quickly. Attention, we know that already. Attention is being aware of your immediate surrounding and selectively being aware of your immediate surrounding. Okay, so even right now, there's something that I can test you on right now. Okay, right now. For example, I can ask you, how many letters are there in process? See, you have to pay attention. You have seen process all this while, but you can't just say 6 or 7. You have to pay attention. And then so although you are seeing something, it doesn't mean you are paying attention to it. Sometimes this is what happens to us when we are learning. I mean, when we are studying from our books, we think we are paying attention, but sometimes we are not. Okay, so you have to be selectively attentive. Now, the second one is retention, being able to recall what you have learned. And the third one is motor reproduction. Remember that this learning we are talking about, the behavior under this learning we are talking about is the one we can measure, meaning the one we can observe, like your body moving, motor action. Okay. In the next 9 minutes, we'll be going off and we'll come back with the same link to complete this topic. And then we'll be talking about how we can go about the essay and the rest of the questions. Okay, so after attention, retention, and how do you call it? Motor reproduction. Motor reproduction is, so for example, someone is walking, you observe the person, you pay attention and observe the person. You're able to remember, recall how the person was walking. And then now it's left with motor reproduction. Motor reproduction means your body should be able to imitate, to mimic that walk. Motivation. Motivation, what will make you influence you to walk like the person? Okay? What will make you walk like the person? What will be the influence? Remember, motivation is the reason behind our actions. That's motivation, or the influence beneath our behavior. Okay? So when you are paying attention, this is the process of acquisition, right? This is the process where you are actually starting the process of acquiring whatever that will be reproduced later. Okay, so all these ones, I will not read them. Remember, I said that if I discuss something or I'll summarize something and I'll not be reading the slide. So yes, I've talked about this, so I'll just skip it and then move forward. Retention, we say observers must also remember. So that's to recall, to remember, to retain. Here it's not retaining HO, okay? I think you'll be writing psychostat somewhere much, yeah. So I'm just playing with the words so that you'll be familiar with them as time goes on. Please, in explaining motivation, can you add extrinsic and intrinsic motivation? Okay, so let me go to that part for you. Motor reproduction, we talked about that already. So you see, motivation. He mentioned extrinsic, the person asking the question mentioned extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. For those of us who have forgotten intrinsic and extrinsic motivation are motivation that come from the external environment, okay? Like what you gain from the outside, which will influence your behavior for you to reproduce the behavior again, or that strengthens the behavior, such as accolades, gifts, and so on and so forth. Then we have intrinsic motivation, whereby you become happy from within. From within, you satisfy some innate component, okay, some biological component within you. You feel fulfilled by doing something, and therefore just that alone motivates you. Okay, so it comes from within. So the person is asking, when we get to motivation, can we talk about this too? So in general, observers will perform the act only if they have some motivation or reason to do so. The presence of reinforcement or punishment, either to the model or directly to the observer, becomes most important in this process. Okay, so either the observer himself is motivated, yes, extrinsically or intrinsically. Now that I've explained it, intrinsic and extrinsic, I think I can use it freely. The observer himself directly can be motivated to say, let me do what so and so is doing. Or some good thing that has happened to the model, the person, let's say Shetawale is a musician and he talks directly against the music industry. Okay, So, and he's doing that and he's gaining money. He's being called to shows and all that. Okay, so you'll be like, okay, so let me also do the same thing. So because of what the money you see Tawale getting due to what he's doing, you also intend to what? Do the same thing. So this is also more like extrinsic motivation, if you are to put it. Okay. Or you yourself, you'll be like, not because Shatawale is getting money. No, no, no. But I like what he's doing, and I believe I'll get money from it. It's also extrinsic motivation. Or you'll be like, I have to do it because that will make me happy. That will be intrinsic motivation. So there should be a motivating factor. There should be something that will influence the behavior. If not, the person has paid attention. The person can remember. The person can reproduce. But there's nothing that is pushing the person to reproduce. If you also require on DD, that is intrinsic. From within on DD and the food. You understand? So let's say running. If you have not eaten, how would you run? You have not taken water. Oh, you are weak than weaker. You understand? So there's nothing that you can do anyways. So, food motivates us, right? Food, water, whatever. There are things that influence, or sometimes it can be extrinsic. When you are running, you are tired, you are thirsty, especially during school, primary JHS days. SHS intercore. Then there will be this lady. There will be like this girl. Hey, move, move. If you win, there will be so that you'll be motivated extrinsically to keep on running. Anyways, so that's it. Okay, we'll be coming to the end of this very soon. So if Shatawale, if Shatawale's behavior by talking directly to the music industry, Ghana's music industry, Shatawale then start to lose some money and some shows and all that, the person would then not mimic that will weaken the repetition or reproduction of that behavior. I think we have some message here. Someone say thank you. I think that's from Derek. Is it? No, Derek is let me see what the one who said thank you before because Derek DM because I sent also. Thelma, okay. Is it Thelma? I think so. Then Derek said, breast motivates me. Hey, Derek. Okay, so please, that's not from me, that's from Derek. For me, I'm motivated extrinsically from my chest, from my heart. Just like none of you is paying me right now. And I've closed and I'm still here with you guys. You see? So you see that's intrinsic motivation. You, Derek, I'll not follow you anytime to any wahala. Me, I'm motivated intrinsically. Okay, factors affecting observational learning. Someone sent message. Who is this? Thelma said, you can't tell us this story. Oh, Thelma. Oh, I'm saying the truth. Okay, have you paid me? Has any of you paid me? You have not paid me, so I'm telling you the truth. Or you think there's any other motivation? What other motivation? Everyone has closed. Everyone has gone home. I'm the only one here. You understand? I'm not doing anything here since the time I started having the class with you. So that's intrinsic motivation. Me, breast and all those things, they're all worldly things. You understand? They're all worldly things. Factors affecting, hey, nobody should type again. Let's focus. Let's be focused in this life for once. At least Saturday is the paper. And this is going online. You people, this is going online. Who has typed again? Solomon, is it your motivation? Is it your motivation? In Alban Bagwin's voice, you are saying A. In Alban Bagwin's voice, you are saying A. Okay, so developmental level of the learner. Okay, so do you know that there are some things you can observe? Meaning, you can pay attention to. You can retain. You can remember how the thing was done.